Hey, so I just wanted to give you an update on the latest tabular features in Deep. In order to see them, you'll have to log into our alpha server. So we have three different environments for deep development, um, alpha, nightly, alpha, and production. Alpha is kind of a staging area before we get to production. I'll go ahead and I'll send you the login and URL for this environment. But you might also see some other changes that are not in production, and you'll see some rough edges too, like some of our string libraries and updated. Yeah, just be aware that that's what's going on. Okay, so an update on where we are with Tabular. Okay, so there's three main parts to the Tabular work: the data ingestion, the tagging, and then the exporting. I'll walk you through the ingestion. So if we go to leads, we go to add leads, the first step to importing the tabular data into Deep is just like any other lead. So I'm going to do it for my local disk. I have a sample data set here. I'm going to hit open. It's going to upload the file to Deep. And then you'll notice one thing that's different is there's this button, extract tabular. If I, from my local disk, do PDF, for instance, there's no tabular button. So anytime it's recognized as an Excel or CSV file, we have this extract tabular button. We're working on updating the user interface of this to kind of better facilitate the process of, quote, extracting tabular. What's meant by extract tabular is right now when tabular files are uploaded, they're just represented through this Google Drive, Google Docs preview of an Excel file, which is pretty limited. In order to extract tabular, we need to say what the columns are and things like that. So let's look through this process. We'll click extract tabular. Right now it prompts you for what the file type is, CSV or Excel. However, right now it's auto-detected, but it gives the user a chance to change it. But I think we're going to move towards just automatically doing it based on file extension. And we're also going to do some UI improvements to this wizard and its flow. But let's go to next. So our next step here would be to specify the headers for each individual sheet. And we can also choose on the right side to skip sheets and not include them in the import. We can also say that sheets don't have headers. Then the next step here, and we're going to do some UI tweaks to this page, but the bulk will remain the same. So we will hit extract, process, and then here we have it extracted, and we see our tabular page. So we built all this from scratch, which it uses some pretty cool virtualization technology to show all of the data that's present in a tabular file. And it's pretty cool. We can go, if you start uploading really large files and viewing them, then there's really not much of a limit to how many rows and columns you can show. There is, however, a limit based on how much data Deep and the backend can handle and process. But for now, the visualization, the kind of the front end part is pretty flexible. A couple of things to point out on this page is on the top we have the listing of all of the headers, and you can provide filters. So we have numerical filters. So here, if I want to do it from 24000 up to 24010, we have a range filter, and it will filter out the relevant portions. Flagging a little bit here. My computer's a little slow today. But anyways, so those are the filters. For string filtering, you can filter based on string content, and it will do the same actions. We will have a button here to reset filtering at some point. What you can also do is right now the column types are auto-detected. So we have 4 types: string, number, date, and geographic region. You can override the detection by selecting a new type here and specifying some other information about the column. You can also delete the column here. And once it's been deleted, you can also add it back in through this button in the top right. One of the reasons why we have the column detection type is it's used for visualizing the content both in the tagging page and the exporting page. On the bottom here, you can also alternate between the different sheets that are contained in your Excel file or CSV file. Pencil icon here, you can delete sheets and change their name as well. And you can sort columns by clicking on the name. And that's kind of about it. So this is the initial sort of staging area for uploading a tabular file and setting it up. Again, we're trying to figure out how much functionality we want to put in here and how much we want to invest in a full-fledged tabular system versus just enough to do tagging. But for now, this is what we have. And these health bars at the top show you the counts of valid data and also invalid data based on the column type. So yeah, once we've done with our process here, we'll hit close, we'll save the changes, and then we would go to the tagging page. We go to leads, okay. And then at the top here, we see the new lead, which was the tabular data. I'm gonna hit tag, I'm gonna open up the tagging page. And then when we see the tagging page, what we're gonna see here as it loads is on the left side where an article would appear, we're gonna have the different columns that are contained in the data sheet. So you can see on the bottom, we have the sheets that are listed, and then each row is the each row here is a row in the data sheet. And you would tag the same way you would an entry from a text file by dragging and dropping into the excerpt columns or excerpt boxes. This setup's a little weird because I've been testing, but you have 3 different excerpt boxes. Usually you would just have one small excerpt box here. But yeah, you can drag and drop it into a 2D matrix, and you'll see that the coloring of the row here matches just like the text coloring does. Drag into this 3D matrix, and then I have the same coloring here. And so what we have in the excerpt box, there's visual representations of the data. We have 3 different ways you can see the data: vertical bar, horizontal bar, and then if it's a string field, you get a word cloud. Let me find one here. So I'm going to drag and drop the name. I think it's a string, should be. Yeah, there's not much in here, but you would get a word cloud, the values. We still have some more work to do there. You can also make these bar charts full screen, which is pretty cool. And you can flip around here full screen as well. Oh, there's the word cloud again. And yeah, that's the bulk of the tagging page. What you can also see here is a way to get a look at the data set that you're tagging. So here I click the little preview button, and it'll pop up and show you the full data set that we looked at earlier. Well, it would appear here. Oh, there it goes. Yep. So that's how you can view the data. And we are still finalizing the geo area tagging, but what's cool here is if you mark a column as a geographic area, and then you tag it where you have like a word cloud here, you would have a map if you had an appropriate shapefile in your deep project. And if we look at our entries here, each entry here is a column that we've tagged from our data set. So there's still some some polishing to do on the tagging portion, but the bulk of it focuses around some visual tweaks to these graphs and adding the geographic visualization. That's about it. The last big item is the export functionality. Which we are still finalizing, and there's really not much to see for the moment. But basically the way that the export functionality works is we generate these a little more detailed graphs than what we have here, and then just like you would get the text for text entry in your export, you would get this chart visualization in the Word export. In the Excel export, we will also include the relevant data for the export. Oh yeah, one more thing to show as well is if we go to the entries page here, um, what we see is, once it loads, one thing to talk about while this is loading is that in what we're developing along with this feature is the ability to release it into production, but only to allow certain users to be able to use it. So by doing this, we can release it when it's still more in a beta version, and we can start getting feedback in production. So that'll be nice. Um, so there's a bug here we're aware of that causes this weird layouting. But what I wanted to show to you was the excerpt. So this is where you would see the text from the text lead is just the charts that we saw earlier. And you can do the same functionalities of changing between vertical and horizontal bar. You could view it full screen, etc. So yeah, so here's a lead that was text based. You can see the text, and then here's our same lead that was the bar chart, or sorry, a tabular data type. And I think that's the main gist of it. So if you want to log in and poke around, we definitely welcome some feedback.